Uspap, page 244. Number 129. Identifying intended users by type. Question. I recently received a request for an appraisal assignment. The potential client has indicated that there will be other intended users, but has not identified the intended users specifically. Is it acceptable to identify the intended users by type? Response: yes. The applicable reporting standards, rules, 2-2A, Roman numeral 1, 2-2B, Roman numeral 1, 8-2A, Roman numeral 1, 8-2B, Roman numeral 1, 10-2A, Roman numeral 1, etc. Allow for the identification of intended users by name or type. In addition, Advisory Opinion 36, Identification and Disclosure of Client Intended Use and Intended Users, states, in part, except when specifically requested by the client not to do so, an appraiser must state the identity of the client in the report. Other intended users, if any, may be identified by name or type. The purpose of this reporting requirement is to, number 1, ensure that the client and other intended users can recognize their relationship to the assignment and report. And number 2, ensure that parties other than intended users will not mistakenly assume that they are the client or an intended user. For example, a statement similar to the following may be appropriate. This report is intended for use only by identify the client and identify any other intended users by name or type. Use of this report by others is not intended by the appraiser. Therefore, in this situation, the appraiser should identify the type of intended users applicable to the assignment. For instance, the secondary mortgage market participants. Number 130. Engaged directly by the homeowner. Question. I was contacted by homeowners who want me to perform an appraisal of their home to be used for a loan at a federally regulated financial institution. What are my responsibilities in this potential assignment? Response: it is an appraiser's responsibility to disclose to the homeowners that a lender or its agent is required by Title 11 of FIRREA to directly engage the services of an appraiser in a federally related transaction. If the homeowners still want to engage you, your disclosure allows you to accept the assignment. Additional information can be found in Advisory Opinion number 25. Clarification of the client in a federally related transaction. Number 131. Client approval for future assignments. Question. Some of my clients include a condition in engagement correspondence that addresses future assignments for the same subject property. Specifically, my acceptance of the assignment requires that I agree to obtain client approval before I accept future assignments related to the subject from another party. Advisory Opinion 27, appraising the same property for a new client, states that Uspap does not require a release to accept the new assignment. Can I accept assignments where the client requires a release for future assignments related to the subject? Response: yes. Appraisers are often subject to agreements that exceed the requirements of Uspap. These additional client requirements are permissible so long as they do not conflict with the requirements of Uspap. Although Uspap does not require obtaining approval from a prior client before accepting an assignment to appraise the same property for a new client, a client can establish such a requirement. Page 245. Number 132. Request to modify a completed appraisal report. Question: I have completed an appraisal assignment for a client. The report was completed using the 2005 version of the Uniform Residential Appraisal Report, URAR. The client has requested that I remove one of the comparable properties from the report because, in the underwriter's opinion, it is not sufficiently similar to the subject property. If I do this, will my action comply with Uspap? Response: such an action has the potential to be misleading. Certification item number 15 of the 2005 URAR states the following: I have not knowingly withheld any significant information from this appraisal report. That's highlighted. And, to the best of my knowledge, all statements and information in this appraisal report are true and correct. Bold added for emphasis. You initially concluded that the comparable you are being asked to remove was relevant in developing and communicating the assignment results. If this opinion has not changed and you subsequently remove a comparable listing or sale from the appraisal report and sign the certification for this specific report format, it would likely be misleading because information you consider to be significant is being knowingly withheld. In addition, Standards Rule 2-2A Roman numeral 8, which addresses the content of an appraisal report, includes the following requirement: summarize the information analyzed. That's highlighted. The appraisal methods and techniques employed, and the reasoning that supports the analysis, opinions, and conclusions, exclusion of the sales comparison approach, cost approach, or income approach must be explained. Bold added for emphasis. If the comparable is removed as requested by the client, information that was analyzed would no longer be summarized in the report as required by this standards rule. Number 133, shelf life of an appraisal or appraisal report. Question: I've received inquiries from some of my clients asking me how long my appraisal reports are valid. Is this addressed in Uspap? Response: Uspap does not determine the length of time for which an appraisal or appraisal report is valid. Various users of appraisal services may establish their own requirements or guidelines for the validity period of an appraisal or appraisal report. It is also important to note that Uspap distinguishes an appraisal from an appraisal report. An appraisal is an opinion of value, while an appraisal report is any communication, written or oral, of an appraisal that is transmitted to the client upon completion of an assignment. Two dates are essential to an appraisal report: the effective date of the appraisal and the date of the report. The effective date of the appraisal establishes the context for the value opinion, while the date of the report indicates whether the perspective of the appraiser on the market and property as of the effective date of the appraisal was prospective, current, or retrospective. As such, the effective date of the appraisal, the date of the report, or both may be important reference points when determining when a new appraisal or appraisal report is required.